Ciao ragazzi, I'm Danilo and welcome back to another video. I know, you're not usually used to see me in this angle and you're not used to see the studio in this angle, but there's a very good reason why today I needed to make a different video. And the problem is, I have an issue with my amps. Well, not my amps themselves, but like me not using the amps. Or at least not as much as I want to. And why is that? Well, simply because this incredible shelf of power looks really cool for the videos, you know, to have here in the background. But my computer is actually here. This is my recording setup and video editing setup and whatever. So, what's the issue then? Every time I want to play an amp, it's very unpractical to have it on the other side of the room. Also because my actual real cabinet is down here. Also, still for the look of the video. And then there's another issue. I have like 6 amps here in the studio, and every time I want to play one, I need to run one cable, you know, from here all the way down here to the Torpedo Captor X, which is what I'm using to attenuate the amps and actually getting the clean signal of the amps. So what's the problem then? Every time I want to switch amps, I need to come back here, unplug everything and plug everything in a different way. And I know it may sound just like I am lazy, which is true, I am, but it's also very inconvenient and it takes a lot of time to do. Imagine having to record one track with a Soldano and the other one with a Friedman or the Marshall, and every time you want to record, you gotta unplug everything, turn everything off, and turn everything on once again and plug everything once again. I think you're starting to understand where I'm going with this. And yes, there's finally a solution, and there's finally a way for me to play these actual amps. There's also a way for me to use more of these amps in my videos. And that solution is actually very tiny, and it's here. So basically, this is an amp switcher. It's made from a very nice guy called Nicky that I met at the Guitar Summit in 2025. He runs the N-Audio brand that makes very cool products like this amp switcher. Basically, what this little thing does is that I can plug everything and turn everything on at the same time here, and then from here send everything to the Torpedo Captor X, to the computer, and simply switch between which amps I want to use, also which cabinets I want to use, because I can actually plug the amps simultaneously to the Torpedo Captor X and to the Blackstar cabinet. So if I want to have both turned on at the same time, I want to hear it there, I want to hear it there, I can basically do whatever I want, which is incredible, and it's actually very, very convenient and way faster. So, what are we doing today? We are actually using all of this cable that you may have seen in the video. This is what I need to plug all the amps here, and we gotta set this little guy up and hear if everything works. So let's do that. I'm not going to connect everything at the moment, but only the 4 amps I use the most, which are the Soldano, the Friedman, the Marshall and the Supro down here. What we need is like 4 guitar cables that runs from the amps to the input of the switcher, 4 speaker cables that runs from the amp always to the switcher, then we need 2 speaker cables going out of the switcher, one into the Torpedo Captor and one into the actual cabinet. I don't know how long this is going to take, because it's a lot, but it's fun. So you're probably going to see a little time lapse of me just setting everything up. All done. I wish. The very important part of this whole process is this. Be careful and always read the manuals when you're doing something like this, because this is a very, very safe amp switcher, so nothing is going to happen to my amps. But you know, you gotta know what you're doing. So basically that's the speaker output of the Friedman, and it's going directly here into the from amplifier speaker output, which is number 2, because I'm going like number 1, number 2, 3, and number 4.
A little longer than a few minutes later.
Okay, and we are done. Now, if all my calculations are correct, this one... If all my calculations are correct, this is the only and most important cable that now I need to plug. So basically, this is the cable that is running from the torpedo captor up here, where I'm now going to connect it to one of the speaker output of the amp switcher. So everything will go here. This will go to the torpedo. Okay, and now, moment of truth. Everything is connected here. I really don't suggest you to, look here. That's messy. I will take care of it when the camera is not rolling, and I will absolutely 100% fix those cable management. So, as I was saying, now everything is connected to the amp switcher, which we'll be able to turn on right now. And let's see if something explodes. Okay, we can see that it's now on mute, because there's a very handy button that you can mute everything. And the cabinet 1 is green because it is actually the only cabinet at the moment that is plugged to the amps, because I did not plug that one yet. I just want to make sure everything works. If I press this one, now it should turn red, which means now the output cabinet 1, which is the one going here, it is selected. Now I can try to turn on one of these amps, and let's see if it works. Let's start with the cheapest one. I did not say that, but just in case. Now this is running into amp number 4, so I can select number 4 and it turns red. Now I just need to plug my guitar into the input of the amp switcher, and we should be ready to hear something, hopefully. Okay, now moments of truth. The Supro amp is on, is connected to the amp switcher, which is sending everything to the Torpedo Captor X, which is sending everything into the audio interface, Logic Pro or whatever. So now I'm going to turn up the volume of the guitar, and one of the two things is going to happen. We can hear the sound, or everything will explode. Or we don't hear anything, which means the amp is running into nothing and it's already completely fused. So let's try. It works! It works! So of course, now to make sure everything works, we gotta do the 4 amp test. For example, now let's turn on the Soldano. Let's hear if you can switch to the Soldano without turning off and unplug everything from the Supro. First of all, just to make sure, I will mute the amp switcher. Okay, now let's turn on the Soldano. Now let's select the cabinet, which is always the number 1 because I want everything into the audio interface. And let's select amp number 1. It does work, which is, I know, it's super nerdy, but I am actually super excited about it because I can finally use all my amps at once, and I can finally use them in all my videos because it's very easy to just press a button and play without plug and unplug everything every single time. Let's turn on the Friedman and amp number 2. Without any issue. And I still have all the amps in this shelf, which looks really cool for the video, and I can actually use and enjoy all the amps thanks to this amazing amp switcher. If you want, just for the science, let's turn on also the Marshall JCM/Signature amp number 3. Yes, now we have all the 4 amps running at the same time and we can actually switch between each one of them. Soldano, Friedman, Marshall, and the Supro. What can I say? It works. That was a very successful mission and I actually made it on the first attempt, which is a record for me because usually I need to get like 4 to 5 attempts to make things right. By the way, I forgot to mention that the amp switcher actually has also a send return for the power attenuator. So if you want to run a power attenuator between the amp switcher and your real cabinet, you can do so, which is also really cool. I will say problem solved, and I am so happy to announce that because it's such a lifesaver, this little guy, that if you guys own more than 1 amp, I really suggest you to check it out. Like I said, I met the guy who makes it at the Guitar Summit, Nikki, which is the owner of the N Audio, and I talked to him about this problem, was like, okay, I get the solution, try this one. And it was really easy to set up, easy to use, and it's very safe because I asked him like 3 to 4 times, is it sure? Can I leave all the amps on at the same time? And he was like, don't worry about it, nothing is going to happen to your amps, they are safe, and he was right. Okay, and that was it for today's video. Huge thanks again to Nikki for sending me this switcher that is going to be here in the studio like forever. There's a link down in the description below if you want to check it out, which I really suggest. And I'm going to play all my amps, so I'll catch you in the next one. Ciao!